Köprühisar was attacked and fell, and numerous of strongholds in the vicinity of Nice soon shared the same fate. In 1301, Ottoman encountered for the first time a regular Greek army, which was led against him by Musaros, the commander of the guard of the Byzantine emperor. This important battle took place at Koyunhisar, called Bafeum by the Greek, in the vicinity of Nicomedia. Osman gained a complete victory, and in the successful campaigns of the 6 following years, he carried his arms as far as the coast of the Black Sea, securing fortress after fortress and hemming the strong cities of Bursa, Nice, and Nicomedia, which yet were retained by the Greeks. With a chain of fortified posts were his garrisons under bold and skillful chiefs, were ever on the watch for the chance of the superior of the material for a foray. It was in vain that the Byzantine court sought to avert the pressure of this ever-active enemy by pursuing a Mongol army to attack Ottoman's southern dominions. Osman sent his son Orhan against the invaders, and the young prince utterly defeated them. Age and infirmity began now to press upon Osman, but his gallant son filled his place at the head of the troops with undiminished energy and success. In 1326, the great city of Bursa surrendered by the Ottomans. Ottoman was in his deathbed at Segut, the first town that his father Ertuğrul had possessed. When his son effected this important conquest, but he lived long enough to hear the glad tidings and to welcome the young hero. The Oriental writers narrate the last. The scene of Osman's life and profess to record his dying advice to his successors. The fair Malkatun had gone before him to the grave, but the 2 brave sons whom she had borne him, Orhan and Alauddin, and a few of his veteran captains and sages, were at the monarch's deathbed. "My son," said Osman to Orhan, "I am dying, and I die without regret, because I leave such a successor as thou art. Be just, love goodness, and show mercy. Give equal protection to all thy subjects, and extend the law of the Prophet. Such are the duties of princes upon earth, and it is thus that they bring on them in the blessing of heaven. Then, as if he wished to take actual season of Brusa, and to associate himself with his son's glory. He directed that he should be buried there and advised his son to make that city the seat of empire. His last wishes were loyally complied with and stately mausoleum which stood at Bursa, until his destruction by fire in the present age, marked the last resting place of Osman, and proved the pious reverence of his descendants. His bana and his sabre are still preserved in the treasury of the empire, and the material ceremony of riding on that sabre is the solemn rite, analogues to the coronations of Christendom, by which the Turkish sultans are formally invested with foreign power. Osman is commonly termed as the first sultan in his race, but neither he nor his two immediate successors assumed more than the title of emir. He had at the time of his death reigned as an independent emir 27 years, and had been chief of his tribe for the 39 years of his life and 68. His career fully displayed the buoyant courage, the subtle watchfulness, the resolute decision, the strong common sense, and the power of the winning and wielding the affections and energies of Ottoman, which are the usual tributes of the founders of empires, and notwithstanding his blood-guiltiness in his uncle's deed, we must believe him to have been eminently mild and gracious for an Oriental sovereign, from the traditional attachment with which his memory is still cherished by his nation, and which is expressed at the accession of each new sultan by the formula of the people's prayer: May he be as good as Osman. Chapter 2. Assassination of Orhan, his vizier Alaaddin's legislation, the Yeniçeries, capture of Nice and Nicomedia, descent of Europe, conquest of Suleiman Pasha, his death and Orhan's death. Emir Osman now slept at Bursa, and Emir Orhan reigned in his stead. Fred Siride was not yet regarded as the necessary safeguard of the throne, and Orhan earnestly besought his brother Alaaddin to share with him the sovereignty and his wills. Alaaddin firmly refused to consent to any division of the empire, and so contravened the will of their father, who had addressed Orhan only as his successors. Nor would Alauddin accept more of the paternal property than the revenues of a single village near Bursa. Orhan then said to him, "Since my brother thou wilt not take the flocks and the herds that I offer thee, be thou the shepherd of my people by my vizier." The word vizier in shepherd of my people, be my vizier, the word vizier in the Ottoman language means the bearer of a burden. And Alauddin, in accepting the office, took on him, according to the Oriental historians, his brother's burden of power. Alauddin did not, like many of his successors in that office, often command in person the armies of his race, but he occupied himself most efficiently with the foundation and management of the civil and military institutions of his country. According to the authorities, it was in his time and by his advice that the semblance of vassalage to the ruler and Konya, by stamping money with his effigy and using his name in the public prayers, was discontinued by the Ottomans. These changes are more correctly referred by authors of Osman himself, but all the Oriental writers concur in attributing to Alauddin the introduction of laws which endured for centuries respecting the costumes of the various subjects of the empire, and of laws which created a standing army of regular troops and provided funds for its support. It was, above all, by his advice and that of a contemporary Turkish statesman that the celebrated Corps of Janissaries was formed, an institution which European writers erroneously fix at a later date and ascribe to Amurath. Alauddin, by his military legislation, may be truly said to have organized victory for the Ottoman race. He originated for the Turks a standing army of regularly paid and disciplined infantry and horse. A full century before Charles VII of France established his 15 permanent companies of men-at-arms, which are generally regarded as the first standing army known in modern history. Orhan's predecessors Ertuğrul and Osman had made war at the head of the armed vassals and volunteers, who thronged off horseback to their prince's banner, when summoned for each expedition, and who were disbanded as soon as the campaign was over. Alauddin determined to ensure and improve future success by forming a corps of paid infantry, which should be kept in constant readiness for service. These troops were called yaya or piade, and they were divided into tens, hundreds, and thousands under their respective decurions, centurions, and colonels. Their pay was high, and their pride soon made them objects of anxiety and their sovereign. Orhan wished to provide a check to them, and he took counsel of the purpose with his brother Alaaddin and Kara Halil Chendereli, who was connected with the royal house by marriage. Chendereli laid before his master and the vizier a project, out of which arose the renowned corps of the Yenicheris. So long the source of Christendom, so long also the terror of their own sovereigns, and which was finally extirpated by the Sultan himself in our own age. Chendereli proposed to Orhan to create an army entirely composed of Christian children, who should be forced to adopt the Mahometan religion. Black Khalid argued that the conquered are the property of the conqueror, who is the lawful master of them, of their land, of their goods, of their wives, and of their children. We have a right to do what we will with our own, and the treatment which I propose is not only lawful, but benevolent. By enforcing the conversion of the captive children to the true faith, and enrolling them in the ranks of the army of the true believers, we consult both their temporal and eternal interests, for is it not written in the Quran that all children are at their birth naturally disposed to Islam? He also alleged that the formation of the Mohammedan army out of Christian children would induce other Christians to adopt the creed of the Prophet, so that the new force would be recruited not only out of the children of the conquered nations, but out of the crowd of their Christian friends and relations, who would come as volunteers to join the Ottoman ranks. Acting on the advice, Orhan selected out of the families of the Christians whom he had conquered thousands of the finest boys. In the next year, 1,000 more were taken, and this annual enrollment of 1,000 Christian children was continued for 3 centuries, until the reign of Sultan Mohammed IV in 1648, when the prisoners made in the campaign of the year did not supply 1,000 serviceable boys, the number was completed by a levy of the families of the Christian subjects of the sultans. This was changed in the time of Mohammed IV, and the corps was thenceforth recruited from among the children of Yenicheris and native Turks. But during the conquering period of the Ottoman power, the institution of the Yenicheris as designed by Alaaddin and Chandereri was maintained in full vigor.